Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome to all my new followers. In this week's episode we're going to discuss a favorite film of mine, the unfortunately discontinued Fuji Industrial 100, a wonderful film. My favorite sort of all-round everyday color film used to be Agfa Vista 200 Plus. But then that got disconnected. Then it got discontinued. I don't know why I said disconnected. It got discontinued, and so I went through a whole trajectory of finding a new sort of all-day, everyday color film, and I ended up at Fuji Industrial 100. I really like its properties. And yes, even though it's been discontinued, I still want to do a review on it. Of course, now that it has been discontinued, I've walked that same trajectory to find a new one, which is the Fuji Pro 100S, the Fuji Pro 100, Pro Image 100. And in that respect, I'm good to go, but I still found that this film deserved some sort of review just to show what a wonderful film it was. It's still available. It's going to be a little bit more expensive, but I've already ordered a 10-pack. Try and get your hands on some if you will. So guys, we're going to jump on the computer and we're going to go over some photos, and I'm going to show you why I thought it is such a wonderful film. I just love that film. I still have, I'm waiting on that 10-pack to come in. But once that comes in, I'm definitely gonna shoot it here and there a little bit. But here we go, guys. Whoops. So guys, yeah, here we go with the first photo. It's you can immediately see the colors. These photos I took deliberately to sort of review the film. You know, reds, blues, greens, RGB, and that's definitely very important that you look at those three aspects. Of course, there's yellows as well. But if your reds, blues, and greens are great, most of the time the rest of the colors are going to be really great as well. Here we can see that it is this wonderful saturation in red, but it isn't overly done. By the way, this photo I took with a polarizer filter, which does darken the sky a little bit, but this film has wonderful blues in the sky. You can see that here. It's just delicious. Also, if we look at the greens, very natural. This film has a very natural reproduction of its colors, which I like. It's not the most contrasty film, which therefore it makes it really great for people portraits, and we'll get into some of those as well. But here you can definitely see the wonderful colors. This is exactly what that scene looked like to me when I stepped out there. That's why it was such a great all-round everyday film, because everything just looks exactly like I remembered it. Wonderful colors. Yeah, you can stare at it all day long, really, even though it's not a groundbreaking photo or anything else, but just the lovely colors is just what satisfies us all in the film. Here on the second shot, this is downtown Dallas. You can clearly see the sharpness of this film. Even if we zoom in, this is scanned with the Epson V550. We can see excellent sharpness. I know compression in YouTube often takes a lot of that away, but this is, for it even being scanned with an Epson V550, we do see excellent sharpness, wonderful color reproduction, no polarizing filter, and we still have a nice blue, almost a turquoise blue in the sky. Fuji films are definitely known to have, turquoisey type greens, minty greens, and I love that about Fuji films. This film is a wonderful film. Yeah, Fuji, what the heck is up with you guys? But anyway, here we see beautiful reds, sharpness, natural greens. What would you want more out of an all-day, everyday film? So here we're going to move on to the next shot, guys. Again, here we see the, excellent sharpness from a consumer grade film. I would have no issue using this on some sort of professional level. It depends what it is, of course. It is a 35mm film, not available to my knowledge in medium format, but there are definitely applications professionally that you can use it. What is a professional film anyway, right? If you put a really crappy film in a professional's hand, he'll definitely do a better job than an amateur, if you will, with the professional film. But anyway, beautiful blues here. Reds aren't too overly done, very natural reds. Beautiful sky again. There's definitely some more grain noticeable. There's definitely more grain. You can mitigate that somehow by you could overexpose and pull the film a little bit and mitigate that grain. But I think right out of the box, because there's very little that I've done here. I've done a little bit of auto contrast in Photoshop, some sharpening, and that's it, right out of the V550. And it comes out looking excellent. And that's one of the things that I really love about shooting film is I don't have to do too much editing. I have some slight back issues where I have to sit too long behind a computer desk. I start feeling my back, so anything that I can do to minimize having to sit on a computer chair will help me out. But here we see beautiful blues. Absolutely wonderful. I just love it. Look at it. It's just fantastic. In my opinion, again, film photography is very subjective. You might not like it, and that's perfectly fine. We don't all have to like the same thing. If you don't like it, that's perfectly fine. I respect that. At the same time, we do look for respect for us liking something, right? That's the beauty of it. We all respect each other. But wonderful film. I can walk around with this film all day long when it comes to color. Here we're moving on to the next shot. Absolutely beautiful colors here. This is at the swimming pool, one of the swimming pools at the apartment complex. I was always very intrigued by this beautiful tree here. Look at those greens. They're lush, they're rich, they're natural. They're natural, yet they have a lushness, if that is a word, about them, which I absolutely love. This film has captured the scene as I remember it. This makes me want to go back to that scene. This takes me back to that scene mentally and visually. This is how I remember it, and that's quite often what photography is all about. We want to remember something. We want to look at it years later and see that same, get that same feeling, have that same memory, recall that same moment, and have those same emotions that we have. And this film is absolutely capable of doing that. But Fuji had to discontinue it. So, story of our film photography lives, right? Beautiful film. Look at the turquoise. Completely captured the turquoise in the water, the blues in the sky, the greens. Everything is natural, but yet it has that little punch to it. I would say, almost in a very subtle cinematic way. I would venture to say. So beautiful shot here. This is how I'll always remember that area. Just wonderful. Moving on to the next shot is at the same pool. You can definitely see here that, the detail that it captures. This is an intricate shot. There's more detail. Again, scanned with the V550. I'm currently working on a process to scan with a DSLR. I'm almost there. I'll do a video on it as soon as I'm done. And then you'll see how much more detail you're able to get out of a negative. Out of a 35mm negative, you'll be really surprised. But this video is about Fuji Industrial 100, but here we can see the detail. Absolutely wonderful detail. Again, the colors, they're punchy yet restrained. They're punchy yet natural. I love that about a film. It absolutely captures the moment in color. how I remember it. Wonderful film. Here we see some more of the reds. They're not overly done. Let's say like in an hectare where you really, you have to put your sunglasses on. I'm kidding. But they're natural reds. They're really wonderful. Natural reproduction, yet punchy. They're not faded or dull or flat. They have a natural sort of punch to them. The blues as well. Here you can, if you could consider this yellow-ish, you could see here it captures everything naturally, in the brick here. Very sharp if we move over to the right. Just excellent sharpness in there. It's a film that I really love and I'll miss. But yes, I have that 10 pack that I'm gonna order and definitely shoot this film in, I want to do definitely a photo shoot with it. I want to do all kinds of other different things with it, but it's just an absolutely wonderful film that fell victim to 2020. So here we're going to move on. This is just a shot I did downtown with a polarizer filter. You can definitely see how nice and rich and blue the sky gets. Very rich, and the sharpness in the staircase, the detail that it captures, the detail, the resolution is just phenomenal for a consumer grade film that is definitely, it was originally only available in Japan, I believe, or in the Asian markets, but later then we were able to buy it here for, in my opinion, a relatively short amount. I wish we had it sooner. But it's just one of those other wonderful films. You have that coolness. Still, we have that Fuji coolness, which I prefer versus the Kodak warmth. Kodak Pro Image 100 has a warmth, but it's not overbearing, like for instance in a Portra and the Kodak Gold, where it's like really warm, and that's not really my thing. To each their own. I prefer the Fuji coolness, and in some films you'll see that in a minute, and under some circumstances you can still get the warmth out of these films. Okay guys, we're moving on to the next shot here, which is a shot, a guy in the neighborhood. Wonderful truck, and yeah, you can definitely see here the colors again. They're punchy yet muted. They're not overbearing. They're very natural. This is exactly how I remember that scene. We have the blues, we have the reds. It's just wonderful. And look at that amazing sharpness. You probably won't be able to see it, as well in, with it being scanned with the Epson V550, but we do see amazing sharpness. As mentioned, I'm definitely going to get into the into scanning. I'm definitely going to get into scanning with the. Okay, here we get a little bit of a thing on suppose. What was 10 minutes? So yeah, here we go. Wonderful sharpness here. Just absolutely wonderful. It's the colors, they're muted, they're not overbearing, but they still have a punch to them, if that makes sense. This film is slightly less contrasty, which I personally love, because that makes it really great for people portraits, and we're about to see that. But you can see the incredible resolution power of this film, especially in combination with a very sharp lens. This is more than sharp enough. People often speak about medium format and it is sharper and you can print bigger, and all of that is true, but you sometimes, in my opinion at least, you lose some of that film aspect, some of that grain, some of that almost sort of lo-fi feeling that you get with shooting 35mm. I grew up on 35mm. I grew up on 35mm. My father shot it, so that's what I grew up with. And you can definitely see, it has that just enough of an amount of lo-fi that makes it interesting to me. Shooting in medium format, especially 7x6, scan that in, it almost looks digital, especially with 100 100 ISO film, ASA film. And that's personally for me not what I'm after. To each their own. You know, I've seen, of course, countless beautiful films shot in medium format, but for me 35mm is always going to be good enough, and that's certainly portrayed in this shot here. Now we're moving on. Here's another, a simple shot, nothing groundbreaking, but the greens, I loved what the door did here. The greens are very accurate. This film absolutely retains everything, super accurate. Hold on here. Am I even recording? I'm not recording. Oh, free cam's already running. Good. Okay, here we go. Is it? Okay, this is a learning lesson here. But here we move on, guys, to the first portrait that I took with this film. And here we can see, of course, my beautiful girlfriend, guys. Here we can see that it has incredible sharpness and it has wonderful skin tones. And of course, this is shot outside on natural light. This is shot with the F100. All these photos were shot with the F100. Excuse me, and this particular shot is shot with the Tamron 45 1.8. Excellent sharpness. Another wonderful aspect, you can see that here in the back, is the bokeh of that lens is so creamy. I haven't seen anything outside of that other than an old M42 135 lens that I have, and one or two Leicas and a Zeiss here and there. Look at this creaminess. Isn't that delicious? That lens has such creamy bokeh, but wonderful for portraits. I would be very comfortable using this film for portraiture, and I will in the future as soon as that 10-pack comes in. Next shot here my girlfriend and I were playing around a little bit with the light. I placed her in front of the window because I know that was going to create some haze in the lens. That was the look that I was after, to create this sort of dreamy glow around her. So I shot it, I believe at 2.8 to have a little bit of depth of field for the eyes, but you get an enormous amount of glare coming in with these old lenses, and it creates this dreamy aspect. And most people, layman people, you present that to them, oh, that's a professional picture. Oh, what did you do that with? Which digital camera? But this is a consumer grade film. These are just the possibilities that you can have with that film. I love the dreaminess where she's sort of cloaked in that aura, in that glow of dreaminess. I love that. So here's another example. Here we were kind of joking around a little bit. We wanted to recreate a shot that I have in one of my books of a more of an era gone by, the 20s, the 30s, and I think we sort of pulled it off. Again, that dreaminess that she's surrounded by, but you can see the sharpness in the eye, very pleasant skin tones, slightly reddish, but not in an overbearing way, like for instance with an Ektar, if you shoot with that. And every shot here, guys, they're shot on box speed. I didn't overexpose, I didn't do anything else. I wanted to give you the film as it comes out of the camera. Very little post-processing has been done. Again, an auto contrast and a sharpening, that's it. This is straight out of the scanner. And then this last shot, guys. I shot this under studio lighting just to see what it would do. We can even see in the background where the underexposed areas, it looks pretty good. There's wonderful skin tones. It does well under studio lighting. It's one of the best films that I've seen perform under studio lighting, and it just does wonderful there. We have excellent sharpness here in the eyes. If we zoom in, of course, not in the right eye, but on the left eye, I shot this at 2.8. and you just see wonderful sharpness all over the place. It's definitely a film that I'm going to miss. And yeah, guys, having said that, that is it for my review on the Fuji Industrial 100. If you can, pick up a 10-pack, pick up a few rolls. If you've never shot it, you won't regret it. It's a wonderful film. It has a very unique look. And yeah, a fallen soldier. But there are still, thankfully, enough films available for us to shoot. And yeah, guys, stay shooting, stay creative. That's it for this week. I love you all. See you next time. Bye-bye.